Well, I'm LifeBlood. This is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Eric Youngstrom. Eric, are you ready to do this?
I am ready. Thank you.
All right, let's go. Eric is the founder and CEO of OnRamp Funds. They're an organization providing cash solutions to e-commerce sellers to power their businesses. Eric, tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Sure. So I'm Eric Youngstrom. Thank you for having me this morning. It's an honor to be here. I'm my personal life, huh? So I'm married to a wonderful woman who shares my name, Eric and Erica. I have two great kids in high school, and my wife and I both grew up in a small town called Yakima, Washington. Um, why I do what I do. In the town we grew up in, there were no big businesses. There were just lots of small business owners, and those are the guys who put up their sign in the little league fields and volunteered at churches and things like that. And so I have a real affinity for small business owners, small business ownership, entrepreneurship. Want to do anything I can to support that. And then I've been in software for 20 years now. The last company I was with, we built tools for the e-commerce SMB market segment, and so that my personal interest in small business owners and helping people launch their own businesses and pursue their own dreams really aligns nicely with this space. And so, given that I don't think the tool sets, the picks and shovels for the e-commerce industry are nearly done being built, I felt like this was a great place to go spend my time and put my life's work into.
Nice. How many folks live in Yakima?
Oh, I think there's 50, 60,000.
Okay.
Small town, central Washington. It's in the desert, like 8 inches of rain a year. Tons of agriculture though, because of the snow melt, the runoff that happens every year out of the Cascades going to down in the Columbia Basin.
And your wife is also from there. Did you guys meet in Yakima?
We grew up in the same street, 9 blocks from one another. Went to first, second, and ninth grade together,
Uh,
and then we never dated. When we actually discovered we were both living in Austin on the same street, about 9 blocks from each other. When I think I was 31 and she was 30, and then we started dating, and not long after, married and kids and family and whatnot.
Amazing.
It
What a
is. It is.
serendipity, Eric.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So you spent a good amount of time in software. So you sort of, I don't want to say that you figured it out. You have this passion for small local business, and you grew up seeing that impact, the sponsorships, just being present in the community. And now fast forward, we have at our disposal all these wonderful tools and innovations and technology, but not necessarily for helping small e-commerce brands and entrepreneurs grow their businesses.
That's right. Yeah, no, I think, look, there are, if you look at the Shopify App Store, right there, I think 7,000 plus apps in the App Store. A lot of those are really powerful, and a lot of them aren't. And I just think that there's this opportunity to continue to refine what those tools are. A lot of those things are probably not going to last the long term. And as small business owners engage with these tools, right, we're going to find out which ones are those that are built for the long term that really do solve the problem, and we're going to find others that solve the problem in a moment of time but weren't really the right permanent solution. So from my perspective, it looks like there's a great opportunity to build a finance product that is purpose built from the ground up for e-commerce, as opposed to an off the shelf product that's been used in retail or other industries that's more shoehorned into the e-commerce space.
Got it. So tell us what is different about OnRamp. You look, you see fine products, you look, you see crappy ones. You're like, oh, there's a pretty good one. How do I take what I think is good and make this new thing?
Yeah, I think one, when I was building the product and working with the team to build the product, we've always taken it from the bottoms up approach on how do you solve that working capital cash conversion cycle problem. So we didn't try to answer the question, which is, how do you loan money to someone? I think that's in the Old Testament, right? So we're not crossing the chasm with that. What we did look at was, if you think of a merchant who's going to sell $1 million a year in top line sales, $250,000 a quarter, And that quarterly sales requires a $50,000 purchase of inventory 30 days before a quarter starts, and then requires another $25,000 in advertising spend to drive the sale of that inventory, right? In a turnover cycle, right? Not a launch cycle, but in a recurring kind of motion. And then another, 15 to 30,000 in shipping and fulfillment costs. You're looking at $100,000 in cash out of pocket to drive that $250,000 in sales. And if you're running a 10% profit margin, that's a $25,000 in profit coming out. The challenge then is that $25,000 in profit doesn't show up really till about day 65, 75 in that quarterly cycle. And at day 60, you need to actually go outlay another $50,000 for the next quarter's inventory. And at day 90 or 91, next quarter's here, now you're outlaying those additional funds for advertising, for shipping, fulfillment. And so when we look at that problem, we don't see a problem that needs to be solved in a 5-month or a 7-month or a 12-month term. We see a problem that needs to be solved on a 30-day to kind of 90-day term. And so what we're trying to do then is structure the capital around that, and then build an application that really delivers that, deploys that capital, collects it at the right time, which then means that that capital has been paid down, where when the merchant needs more, they have the ability that either that prior loan's been paid off or it's close enough to paid off. It could be paid off or rolled over into the next one, so that more capital is available to go into the merchant's business. And so I think, what we do is provide some discipline around how capital is deployed. We try to provide a lot of education around how to think about OnRamp in your capital stack, where, there is value in a 1-year term loan from a different provider, solving a different problem, right? Potentially, I want to go buy a forklift that's going to cost, $15,000. Paying that off over a year or two is a really smart way to use capital, instead of tying up your money right now. And so, we fit alongside that. If you're going to go buy a warehouse on a 10-year mortgage, right, then great. We fit alongside that. So really helping merchants understand kind of how to use the capital. And then the team here, prior to OnRamp, a number of us were working together at a company called Shipping Easy, solving the shipping and order aggregation problem for merchants for the last 10 years. We were acquired by stamps.com in 2016. So we all have an affinity for this market segment, and we want to help these small business owners win. But two, we've also just seen a lot. And so we can sit down and talk to merchants around freight, supply chain, ocean going container shipping. How do you deal with the problems in Long Beach and Los Angeles ports because of the delays there, rerouting through the Panama Canal to come to Houston, where, it's business as usual. How do you think about merchandising around, which agency should you work with if you're a Shopify seller versus an Amazon seller, and really trying to partner with the merchant to help solve a broader range of problems, because of the capital that we power, fits into those areas so nicely.
Yeah, it's super powerful having that previous experience and, for lack of a better term, wisdom, Eric. I think can certainly help an immense amount. So how do they actually pay the money back?
So what we do is collect a percentage of sales. And what we do is determine kind of when we make that loan against the next 90 days, for example, we're loaning against the expected 90-day revenue stream. So we're building a forecast for the merchant. We're sharing that forecast with the merchant so they can understand what our perception of the next 90 days looks like. We then loan against that. There's a percentage, right? So if you loan 20% of the 90-day revenue, we're going to probably collect around 23% of that per order, just in case things slow down a little, so that we're still closing it out on time. And then a small fee, typically kind of 1 to 2% of top line sales, depending on the percentage of those top line sales that the loan size is. And then each time the merchant gets a deposit, and I think this is really critical. It's not when the sale happens. When the sale happens, right, the payment gateway in Shopify has the money, but the money may not show up to the merchant's bank account for 3 or 4 days. In Amazon, right, typically the Amazon seller is getting a deposit every 2 weeks, right? So sale happens today, could be 14 days before that deposit shows up in the merchant's bank account. And so when that merchant deposit arrives, we then sweep the funds and calculate what's owed and sweep the funds to then pay down that for the merchant. So it's really an automated process. It really can be thought of as an automated line of credit that's there when it's time to make that next, advertising purchase, inventory purchase, shipping and fulfillment purchase. And so really from my perspective, this high velocity turnover is very, very low risk because you can see the merchant sales and you can look at their catalog and what products are performing over time and seasonality and all these other indicators. And so this isn't capital the merchant should be looking at selling part of their company to go solve, right? They shouldn't be raising equity, which is a hard thing to do in the first place, but really an inefficient use of capital from that perspective. And then if the merchant has their own funds tied up in this, those funds have now been released, right? So the merchant may decide, hey, I'm going to start paying my salary. And we find so many of these small business owners aren't paying themselves a salary until they kind of get to 2, 3, 4 million a year in top line is when all of a sudden there's enough cash that you can start to extract some of it. And then the other thing we look at is it's just not long-term capital. So when we see, banks saying, hey, here's a 1-year loan with fixed payments over the next 12 months. Well, you can make a far bigger payment in December because of Christmas than you can in January. And so that doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't align with the natural ebbs and flows and cycles of the e-commerce business and e-commerce ecosystem. So, we've just aligned it around all of that so that it's, again, purpose built for e-commerce from the ground up versus shoehorned in to go make a lender happy.
That makes a lot of sense. Your approval process, selection, screening, whatever term it is that you use, how much of it is objective? How much it is subjective? How does that work?
I'd say it's mostly objective. It's data driven, right? We're getting, I guess I'd say it's all objective. We're getting, we're connecting to your online order sources, Shopify, BigCommerce, Amazon, Walmart, right? What have you. We're connecting to your bank, right? We need to be able to see that. We're validating that, right? The expected sales deposits at Amazon are actually showing up in that bank account, right? At the right pace. We are looking at the business credit report, sometimes a personal credit report. It's our objective that the other piece of this, right, is most small business owners have to use their personal borrowing power, right? They're not getting a business credit card, or if they are, it's still underwritten to the business owner, and the business owner has that personal liability, personal guarantee on it. We typically don't use a personal guarantee. There are a few exceptions to that, but our goal really is that the business should be able to stand on its own 2 feet with our loans, and that in borrowing from us, the business is actually building their credit profile, and they're learning how credit works. The business is proving it can use it correctly. And what that means over time is we think somewhere between 5 and 20 million in revenue, the small business owner is going to really graduate from the OnRamp product set, because that's when they're going to hire a CFO, VP of finance, somebody who's really focused on this part of the business. And that person's going to be able to go, button up their financials, get some audits done on that. It'll take 6 to 12 months, but then they'll go to a bank and say, great, here are my audit financials. I'd like to get a business line of credit. It'll be a more cost-effective solution for them. And they'll have graduated from OnRamp. But the way we like to think of OnRamp is we're kind of your CFO partner before you can afford a CFO. And so while we're not the lowest cost capital solution, when we look at the value we bring, I think, we bring a lot more value, and we're doing so in a way that gives you a CFO on your team without having to go pay a, $150 or more $1,000 a year salary.
Makes sense. When you decided to explore the space, say, okay, I'm interested in starting something new. Here's what I'm thinking. What surprised you? I'm just curious what regulatory agencies that you're working with and partnering with, questions like that.
Yeah, we're kind of, we live in this kind of area called kind of unregulated lending. We do fully comply with all 50 state regulators' requirements around lending, around the SMB lending. One of the things that does mean is we do not work with sole proprietors. Not that there's a gray area between consumer lending and sole proprietor lending, and our preference is just to stay away from that gray area. So we work with LLCs, LLPs, B Corps, C Corps, and S Corps, because those are true business entities that comply with the different state laws around lending to businesses. So our objective there is, if the merchant is a sole proprietor, well, I don't know, we can't work with them, but if they go become an LLC, great, we're happy to then work with them at that point in time. And I think that's just good business hygiene, right? You should have the liability protection of the business entity between yourself, the owner, right, and the market out there. So, but from that perspective, right, at that point in time, this is a very data-driven process, right? We're looking at, credit scores and, things like that on the business. We're looking at, history of payback, have you had tax liens, have you had collections against you, that kind of stuff. All of those come together then to give us, a score that we use, and based on that score, that'll determine the offer and the price that we can offer you.
How long did it take you from idea conception to here we are?
Oh, I mean, I was tinkering with this idea in, kind of 2017, 2018, really decided I would kind of go test it in 2019, and had our head of product here, Nick, was contracting, just kind of do some side work. So he helped me build an Amazon harness so that we could go just pull Amazon data, and then I could go dump it into Excel and basically loan by hand. And did that with 2 or 3 different e-commerce business owners that I knew personally, and was willing to take the handshake risk on. Turned those loans over for about 9 months, 6-9 months. Really proved that our bottoms up approach could work, that it would be useful to the merchant, and then was there enough opportunity to generate a return that it would be actually a business you could go build and that could then feed itself with its own revenue streams. And the answers to all those questions were yes. And so then I quit my full-time job at stamps.com after they acquired Shipping Easy. I left there in 2020. The Stamps guys were great because I actually let them know in 2019 I was going to start really working on this. And we spent a year working together where I was helping find my replacement and train them up, while they were very kind to say, look, we get it, you're passionate about starting businesses. That's, we acquired your last business. So they really gave me the rein to do that while I was still with them. And then I left in July and have just been building this ever since.
Nice. And the process, e-commerce seller says, oh, this sounds great. How does it work?
You come to onrampfunds.com. There's a sign up now link. There's a get offer link. Click that. You're going to create your account, right? Username and password, and then answer a couple questions, I think 3 or 4. And then you'll connect your online order sources and your banks. At that point in time, then we're pulling those data elements in to then come back and say, here's what you pre-qualify for. We will, in fact, give you a pre-qualification just with the order source data before we even get a bank connected. We understand it's sensitive to do so. And then, each step of the way, as we're getting additional data, right, we're refining the offer we can make. And then we're going to spend time talking to each of these merchants to really understand what the capital need is, so that we're structuring the right product for them, right? It is not a one size fits all. It's very much a tailored solution to each individual merchant based on the, what the data tells us, and based on what they're, what they need to go spend the money on right now, so that we're being really helpful and delivering what they need.
Love it. So is there a typical amount of time from time that they come to the site to time that it's funded?
I mean, we do stuff same day. So we have merchants who sign up in just 2 or 3 hours. We've gone through the full process, approved, and we're distributing funds. I would say on average, it takes a couple of days, right? Because most of the businesses, if you're a little bit bigger, there are some data delays in Amazon and Shopify, right? Those are platforms designed to run in real time to keep the real time order flow going. So pulling historic order data is not something they want overwhelming systems. And so we're real cautious around just how quickly we can pull that historic data in. But yeah, once we have that data, it is a very, very fast process, right? It's computer driven, right? We know what we're looking for, and we use that to drive the offer. And then, the other piece of it is just, we have a sales team here. We talk to every one of our customers. We're answering their questions, walking them through how it works. And then again, looking to understand, what are your capital needs right now, and how do we deploy the right money for that problem, versus just saying, here's too much cash or too little cash, because we didn't understand what they needed it for.
Nice. Love it. Eric, thank you so much for coming on. Give us the website again.
Yeah, you can find us at onrampfunds.com. We're on all the major social sites. And if you go to our homepage there, you'll see, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those types of things. We'd love to help you. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And our phone number is on every page of the app as well. And we're happy to get on the call with you and answer your questions.
Love it.
Thank
Well,
you.
if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Eric your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to onrampfunds.com and find out if it's the solution that you are looking for. I'll list all of the social and everything else in the notes of the show. Thanks again, Eric.
Thank you.
And until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.